Now, first up, let me please invite on stage the man who's spearheading the session. We have with us Rishad, the Chindamada, Business Head, Gaming and Tech Meta, who will be moderating the discussion. Thank you so much, Rishad, for joining us. Well, on that note, let me go ahead and invite our exciting panelists as well for this exciting discussion. We have with us Himanshu Gupta, Senior Growth Manager, Moloco, Salone Sehgal, Founding General Partner, Lumikai Fund, Trupti Latur, Lead Marcom and Strategy, Geo Games, and Mukesh Choudhary, Business Head, Spartan Poker. Well, I'm really excited. If you're also excited about the session, can we have an exciting round of applause? Come on, let's keep that energy flowing in. We need to ensure we get as much thoughts coming in from our speakers. So with that, let me quickly hand it over to Rishad. Over to you then.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I know 3:30 is, it's the graveyard hour, as someone called it. Really difficult to get everybody's attention, but we'll do our best. I think to start things off, maybe we'll do something a little unorthodox. Why don't, all the panelists, you've heard all of them get introduced just now, but why don't all of us just take a moment and maybe just share why we all love gaming, what got us into gaming. Maybe Mukesh will start with you.
Hello. Yeah. So my memory of gaming goes back to college days when I used to play Counter-Strike on LAN networks. I'm sure more than half of the room might have played the game. Yeah.
Some applause. How many Counter-Strike fans in the room? I think.
How many?
We had 3 on the panel, so okay, fair number. Great.
Yeah. So that's my oldest memory of game. Then I obviously played some mobile games.
No, thanks for sharing. Trupti, why don't you tell us a little bit?
Okay, my gaming journey has started when I was in primary. I think I learned programming only so that I can ask for a computer and I can play on that. And of course, it started with all the consoles and the Nintendos that I've played most of the games on them, including your Mortal Kombats. And then I further started playing Dota, where I still go sometime to gaming cafes and socialize with the current Dota teams and all these Gen Zs and actually play with them. So that has been my gaming journey, and yes, of course, that's been a part of my life forever now.
No, thanks. I'm surprised Dota didn't get more cheers, but anyway. Okay, there was one woo there, but yeah. Salone, you're like ubiquitous with gaming. What got you into the whole,
Well, I started playing games when I was 10 years old, actually maybe even younger. So I used to play Sims a lot, used to play Civilization a lot, used to spend days playing strategy games. I think it was very clear to me growing up that if I ever wanted to see an Indian female protagonist in a game, I'd probably have to build it myself. Years later, I realized I probably would have to fund it myself as well. But I ended up being in games professionally. I built a gaming company. I worked in a fund which pioneered investing in games in a fund called London Venture Partners, where we were early investors in Supercell and Unity and Natural Motion and Playfish, and saw that journey. And then, of course, founding Lumikai, and now we're India's most active investor in gaming and interactive. So I guess that throughput has stayed. That there's a through line of this sector and the association with it.
I love that powerful statement, right? I mean, if I have to, I'll build it myself. That was like amazing, yeah. Himanshu, you?
I think my gaming journey started with gaming parlors. I started playing Tekken 3 and Cadillac Dinosaurs when I was, I think, 10 or 12. And I think post that, when I finally got a PC, Counter-Strike 1.6, it was and it still remains one of my favorite games. There was time in college when I used to play for 20 hours straight with my friends. So yeah.
Not setting a good role model example, but yeah. No, but I think everyone here wants to hear a little bit more about what the potential of the Indian market is. Just a quick FYI, I got into gaming by looking at live streaming. For me, watching people play Age of Empires on streaming platforms was like downtime for me. But yeah, let's get on to the panel topic. I think we're all here to talk about potential. So maybe I'll ask you all, what, according to all of you, are the 3 things India can do really? I think we heard a lot in the morning about where we are, what the potentials is, what the numbers can be, but what exactly needs to happen? I think we just heard the secretary say it's not just about having good intent, it's about putting action to that intent. So what is those 3, let's say, action points that we need to do to really transform India and make it a powerhouse? Salone, maybe I'll open it to you first, and then we can go on.
Sure. You know, I think had you asked me this question 4 years back when we launched the fund, you know, I would have said, look, we need risk capital, we need a lot more mainstream acceptance of gaming, and we need more entrepreneurs building in gaming, right? It's now been 4 years hence. As a fund, we have now seen about 2,500 plus companies in interactive media alone. And I believe there are a few fundamental shifts that have happened, right? Now people accept gaming has become mainstream, esports has become a bona fide sport. Clearly, we see a lot more government involvement. You know, Mr. Jaju, that's very reassuring. As well as we're now seeing actual action, right? The centers of excellence, the waves, the AVGC policy coming in. So there's complete alignment also along with governmental support saying, hey, this is a sector, sunrise sector. It is a sector which is going to lead to massive employment generation. It is at the vanguard of innovation. How do we incubate it more? So I believe all of that, to a very large extent, is starting to come into place. There is also very active investor interest. There is also currently very active strategic interest, right? We see the likes of a Krafton or a Mixi or a Sony and some of these large corporates who we work very closely with, constantly asking us for market intel. And a part of that process has been us educating the market, you know, when we launched our research report that we do every year. I think fundamentally 3 things now need to happen, because if we are to say where we go from here, the first is accessing and empowering developers, not just in content creation, but also on the infrastructure side, also on platform side, on the tool tech side, with what best-in-class looks like. Because gaming is not just about building in India. We should be thinking about how do we become net exporters as well. So the first is content creation, but also how do we export, right? And there is an ancillary infrastructure around it which should also be supported. And capital is only one part of the pie. The second is getting access to best-in-class talent, best-in-class market intel, insights, product know-how, which is the big solve, one big solve which is still pending. The second is we'd love to see more developers build for the India market, whether it's mid-core gaming content, whether it's just platforms for India. I think there are still a lot more focus outward. That should be reversed inward because there is a massive market opportunity. Monetization has been unlocked thanks to UPI. In-app purchases are growing at 40% year on year in the India market. The India games market is estimated to be anywhere between $8 to $9 billion over the next few years. So we need a lot more developers building. We also see the return of diaspora founders, right? A lot of folks who are working for global gaming companies are now coming back and saying, hey, we want to build for India. That's a big change, and that needs to be supported. And I'd say the third major shift will be for the larger global strategics to say, hey, how do we partner with best in class in India, right? Whether it's through acquisitions, whether it's through capital infusions, whether it's through strategic partnerships, and the distribution platforms now waking up to that opportunity, and we're clearly seeing that, right? Like, you guys have become Meta has become very active. We see that with Google, with AWS. Obviously, we've got, you know, Geo as well now taking a very, very clear path to saying, hey, this is what the next generation of media is going to look like. And, you know, for us as a fund, our thesis is the next Black Myth Wukong or the next Tencent going to come from India? And the answer is yes, right?
Oh, wow. But love to hear from the other people as well. So maybe, Trupti, over to you.
Yeah, I think we are planning the future in a way like, of course, there are a lot of processes that have already happened to, you know, enable people and empower people. So what we can say, 3 things that need to be done is, one is, of course, we are building platforms like cloud computing as well as edge computing, which will help the developers as well as the gamers to access any kind of game on any device. Basically, we are making it very accessible and affordable. And when it comes to edge computing, it does help a lot in development of immersive gaming experience and the experience to be smooth, especially when we move the processing very close to the data source. So the cloud computing along with the edge computing is actually empowering a lot of AR, VR use cases, AR games, VR games that even tools like GeoGlass we are seeing latest where we have games and Of course, cloud gaming is something which is again making uh, every household have access to high quality games, right? That is one place where we have seen that only niche audience have access to it, because most of the good quality AAA titles are at a cost. So how do we democratize so that it becomes limitless for people to access good quality games from any device? So we are talking about around 50 million homes which are connected through, say, broadband. In that 50 million homes, how do we ensure, and not everybody can afford a console. They might afford a 1 lakh iPhone, but they'll not buy a console. That is an acceptable fact in India. That is why India is a mobile heavy market. Yeah. But if you see different markets, one is, of course, parents are very encouraging in different markets. They don't really stop their kids playing. That social stigma will, anyways, I think it's changing with time. And with this cloud computing and cloud gaming, what is happening is with every set-top box which is there at home, which is connected to their broadband, as long as they have a game controller, they're able to play on any device. So you can connect it, you can treat your set-top boxes as a, a gaming console and play it. So this is one of the way where we are making accessible, if you are a gamer and if you love gaming, it is accessible now. And even content creation, I think a lot of giants are letting streamers and content creators, they're encouraging them to create content, and they're earning well as well. So, and upcoming now is AI that we have seen. And I think it has like a massive potential with AI coming into picture. So I think these three combination, along with the 4K tech as well, with good internet comes the good quality content, and of course now where do you watch it? Like the 4K quality content is also there. I think most of the television these days are 4K qualities. So the combination of cloud computing, edge computing, AI, as well as your 4K tech is the future of gaming, and which is going to revolutionize the people experience gaming in India, is what I think.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of themes emerge, but would love to hear from both Mukesh and Himanshu. Mukesh, why don't you?
Yes. Adding on to what both of them said in terms of technology advancement, I feel leveraging the AI stack, which is being built globally, but we need to, in India, we need to leverage that stack and build awesome use cases into games like hyper-personalization, better reward system, which is again personalized to the gamer itself, not a universal one for the game. In terms of technology, I feel AI is going to help a lot if we leverage it in time. Second, non-tech, I feel gaming needs to be positioned more as entertainment. There is a lot of competitiveness being promoted, being positioned. There is a lot of reward money, prize money, etc. being advertised. But I feel in the end, gaming is an alt entertainment. The brands involved in gaming needs to position it like that. This will help the funnel widen. A lot of people might not play games just to win, but to, kill time or just to freshen up, etc. So that positioning needs to evolve, I think, in India. Third would be this industry is, I think, growing. I've been working in gaming for last, I think, 10 years. The talent needs to be nurtured better. Now that we have funds flowing into gaming, thanks to the VC funds, I would say the gaming talents and the gaming studios needs to be incentivized in a better way, which helps pace up the innovation a lot rather than being a slow-paced, creators. So those three things I feel will help India emerge on a global stage as a gaming.
No, lovely, and I really resonate with that whole marketing angle that you mentioned.
Yeah,
totally agree. Himanshu, why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think in gaming industry in India has obviously grown a lot. We are the second largest market in terms of sheer downloads, and there's a notion that Indian gamers don't pay. I was actually talking to one of my ex-colleagues at Google, and he mentioned that the ARPU for India is growing at a CAGR of 26%, right? And for Google specifically, India is the third fastest growing market in terms of ARPU, right? So that's a huge number. I think in terms of growth in the future, a lot of stuff is going to happen organically because of increased mobile phone penetration and people getting access to faster internet. And apart from things that other panelists mentioned, for example, the talent development and certainty in regulations, there are a few things that we need to do to be able to probably speed up the growth. The first one is obviously Indian studios building for more popular genres in India. If you look at the last 3 years, most of the growth was because of RNG sector, right? But the next wave of growth is going to come from core and casual games, right? And in core games, if you think about it, the most popular games are to the likes of BGMI, Free Fire, COD, all of them which are made by international studios like Krafton and Epic Games, right? We have certain studios, within India which are trying to build games into the genre, for example, Mayhem Studios. But I think we need to have more of such studios come up and build games in such genres. The second thing which I think, Salone kind of alluded to earlier was Indian studios thinking beyond the domestic market. Indian gaming studios should now start building games which appeal to the global audience. And I think a lot of this is happening because of, companies like Lumikai. I heard about Krafton Incubator Fund, which are helping these studios to get started and represent India on a more global stage.
No, super. Not sure what that was for, but thank you. I think, a couple of themes emerged. I think one, if I can put it, is the whole bucket of content, right? Making titles, making content that really resonates with Indians. And like you said, also coming under the bucket of entertainment, right? So that's one bucket. Second, I would say is maybe access to resources. You spoke about, creating the developer talent, nurturing them. I think all of you touched upon that in a lot of sense. Access to resources. So maybe that's the second bucket. And the third bucket is, really growing the ecosystem, right? Again, whether it's educating people about, game development, whether it's about educating consumers about the categories of games, that's bucket number 3. Just want to touch a little bit on bucket 1, and you mentioned Mayhem Studios, I think, which is a Lumikai, a company. Salone, maybe if you can shed a little light on what will it take for us, as a country to really crack a mid-core, or a successful mid-core or a AAA game?
I think that's a great question. And, it's a question that we often get asked. It's a question we ask ourselves internally. What would it really take to build the next Black Myth Wukong, right, out of here? I think one is appreciation of the journey of what it took to actually build, for a game science to actually build a Black Myth Wukong, right? It was a 10-year journey. There were a lot of non-believers. There was a lot of hustle. There was complete capital constraints. It was a team that persisted for over a decade to eventually build something which felt very true to them, which then translated into becoming this global IP. Now, when we look at developers who are looking to build for India, I think there are some spectrums to it, right? First is pick your genres well, right? Like to be able to have founder market fit in terms of the kind of genres that they're identifying, find white spaces. Also, if you're taking on entrenched incumbents, there is a little bit of understanding of what it would take to build that kind of experience, right? And some of our learnings have been that just because you slap on Indian aesthetics doesn't necessarily mean that the market will take to that, right? You still need to have best-in-class experiences simply because, unlike China, which was a walled garden, India is not a walled garden, right? We, as Indian consumers, are exposed to the very best. We're exposed to the very best of big tech. We're exposed to the very best of best-in-class, world-class games publishers. So we have seen Instagram and Snapchat, but also a BGMI and also a Supercell game and also a Free Fire, right? This makes the Indian consumer very discerning, but at the same time, there is value sensitivity, right? Because the paying capacity of an Indian gamer is increasing, but it's still not a Japan, it's still not a US.
Sure.
The second is to understand the very unique psyche of an Indian consumer, is that for an Indian digital native is often a first-time smartphone user. They have been exposed to everything from gaming to video to social media to audio to streaming all at the very same time. So in some ways it's a very sophisticated user, but in some ways it's also a very primitive user because it's a first-time smartphone user. So you have to understand the unique Indian consumer as well. The third is, and goes back to my first point on theme familiarity. Theme familiarity is important, gameplay familiarity is important, but also delivering a world-class experience. Try and do 2 out of 3, the game's not going to work, right? You have to be able to build a game which is familiar, do it in a way which is uniquely contextual to the Indian user.
But it's not copy-paste, basically.
It's not a copy-paste, right? Also bake in monetization mechanics which are familiar for the Indian user at a pricing point which is comfortable for the user. If you look at Netflix strategy in India, they had to come up with a tier which was specific for India, right? So those are, I think, fundamentally things that an Indian developer needs to grapple with, particularly for building for the India market. Is that possible? Absolutely, right? But that means scratching a little bit below the surface.
No, got it. So customization, knowing the customer, and really, fine-tuning your offering to find that fit. Do you think we'll get there in the next 1-2 years? Do you think that's a...
That's why we exist as a fund.
No,
I think without it, we wouldn't be here. But, the way we look at it is that the next 10 years for India, especially in interactive entertainment and media, is going to look nothing like the last 10 years.
Okay. Looking forward. Switching gears a little bit to a different category, to an RMG category. Mukesh, I'll ask you this question. You're the business head for Spartan Poker. Poker has always been perceived as an urban, elitist kind of a sport. How do you see that changing? And what does the future look like for the category?
Interesting. So the memory of poker being an elite game mostly comes from the movie Casino Royale 2006. All of us, I mean not all of us, most of us would have watched it. And there are a lot of videos on YouTube which projects poker to be a game of elite. Today we are seeing the change. The change has already happened. Today we see a good mix of, let's say, affluent millennials in India playing poker, as well as the major chunk of new users is coming from Gen Z customers who are taking, as I said again, poker as an entertainment, way of entertainment, not as a very competitive sport to make money every time you play. So as the pop culture grows in India, poker is the new cool among the youngsters to play with their peers, friends, to flaunt in their circle. So it's no longer a elite game or a high price game. It has already got into the good circuit of young customers. I have seen customers in last 1.5 year coming from cities like Raipur, Ranchi. You won't expect, like earlier, I've been in poker itself for 10 years, since 2014. Earlier, it used to be concentrated among, Mumbai, some suburbs of Mumbai, Delhi, and Kolkata. Majorly 3-4 cities. Then Bangalore grew up in 2015 to 2017. Bangalore grew as a market. But these days, we are seeing a lot of new customers coming from this Jaipur, Raipur, Lucknow, Patna, Ranchi. All these cities are booming in terms of, poker customers. So the market has already broken out. I think it's more about building an engaging product. Also, poker earlier used to be a very slow game. It used to be played, socially or in casinos. It used to be slow game. Thanks to all the operators in Indian market, they have innovated and, including Spartan Poker, we have created some faster formats of the game, which is more engaging and, takes a lot less time to play and finish. That has also propelled this game among the youngsters. So more or less we are there. I think it's more about getting to the scale, which we will obviously get. It's a matter of time, I would say.
Just to double click a little bit on that, how quickly do you think that scale will come? Like, do you see that are we at that cusp right now? Are we talking about the present, or are we still talking a couple of years?
Yes. I think we are already there. It's just a matter of some regulations getting changed, like presence of poker in the Google Play Store. I would say that's a major hurdle to get over. And once that does, I think poker will get mainstream. You will see more content of poker in Bollywood as we see in Hollywood. Unfortunately, Bollywood has not been very open to poker content. The same will be open in cricket and sports circle. So a few things in regulations yet to be changed, which will unlock the potential of poker in India. I strongly feel that.
No, thank you for that. I'll ask a question to maybe the three of you, Trupti, Himanshu, and Salone. If you have to look at technology and emerging technology trends like Gen AI, VR, cloud gaming, esports, etc., how do you see all of these playing a role in game developments? Maybe Himanshu, you could start, and then we could go in that order.
Yeah, if I specifically talk about AI, I think Mukesh and Trupti talked about AI, using AI for in-game experiences, having long conversations with NPCs and all. So apart from the in-play game experience, once you've built a game which has like a product market fit, which appeals to the audience, AI makes it very easy for you to acquire users nowadays. There are multiple platforms, Google, Facebook. We also help our advertisers acquire users at scale through the use of AI ML. On the other things like, so for example, I think VR, in the future, it's going to get more and more kind of immersive. I do feel that it'll be more concentrated towards arcades instead of being, as a personal device for people at home. Once we get more affordability on those hardware, we'll probably see more VR adoption. In terms of cloud gaming, I think because cloud gaming eliminates the need of expensive hardware, cloud gaming is going to be the future. The demand for console is going to go down. We'll probably see more competitors emerge in the cloud gaming sector than the console, similar to what we have for Netflix, Hotstar, Prime, and so on. And I think esports is obviously growing at a very, very fast pace. We saw, I think the viewership for esports was around 17 million last year, which grew up like 5x as compared to 2019. And it's set to grow at a pace, we'll probably see 85 to 90 million streamers coming in the next 2-3 years. And it's great to see international bodies and our government as well kind of formalizing that as a actual sport, right? So yeah, I think the future is very bright and the technology makes it more and more accessible.
I think I've been in the industry now for about this is my 19th year. And the one thing that is very unique about gaming is that it stands at the vanguard of innovation, right? So if you want to see what tech will look like 5 years from now, you should see what gamers are doing today, right? And if you see that they're typically always early adopters of new tech. And I think, we've talked a little bit about AI and cloud gaming. I think, this is probably for a much longer discussion we have to weigh out the cost of compute vis-a-vis the actual experience and what we're still in the very, very early days of what is possible with AI at the moment. VR is very interesting. I've been in the industry now for so long. There was this wave of VR that happened in 2015, 2017 in the global markets where a number of VR companies got funded, which were more consumer businesses. But then there was a graveyard of VR startups because that consumer adoption didn't take place because the form factor is still unwieldy. I tried the Vision Pro just literally 4 days back and it gave me a headache. And the user interface, the bulky headset, as a consumer experience, I can use my mobile for 6 hours in a row. Can I sit in a VR device for more than 20 minutes? It's probably I can see some nodding heads. So I think there is that experience for a consumer. Where VR can really play a massive role, and it's on the enterprise side. In fact, we see enterprise adoption for VR in excess of that of consumers. And in fact, Indian enterprises are actually using VR for very peculiar use cases like worker safety training. So we have a company called Autoverse, which is India's fastest growing AR VR business. These guys have worked with large Indian corporates from Tata Steel to JSW to international clients like Shell, Bosch, Duracell. Enterprises are adapting to VR extremely well, and the internal engine for this particular company is being powered by a gaming division. So there you see, gaming driving actually enterprise change. So, I think this is all interesting. We've also seen the likes of, let's say, blockchain develop, and 50% of use case for blockchain was gaming, but we kind of see it hit a natural cap. So I think, look, gaming is always a leading indicator of what the future is going to look like. And I think all of these individually have very distinct nuances of what we as a fund at least explore.
Yeah. No, you're right. A lot of these technologies start out in gaming first and then go into other areas. So you're totally right. Trupti, if you could add on.
Yeah. Definitely, I think VR is an evolving product, and it has evolved from its time. And it has been used for various other things as well. Recently for IPLs, I think there were multiple cameras fixed, and it was ensured the quality is apt for a VR viewing experience as well. And a lot of creators are also, trying and coming up on different platforms, I can say. So let me start with esports. Esports has been, if I go back in time, how esports started globally, like let it be the Dota Internationals and the League of Legends that happened. It is an experiential marketing activity for a lot of developers, right, who develop AAA titles. Of course, there's a huge difference between, esports and casual gaming. And it takes a lot of efforts to develop that kind of content in first place. And then now it has been accepted globally. We saw the biggest esports World Cup happening in the Middle East, and we are seeing even in India the slow rise of, from prize pools to viewerships to participation as well. And slowly we are going to enter even into Asian Games and Olympics as well. So esports has been taken up very seriously these days, not like back in, even 5 years back, it was a different scenario.
Not in your Dota days, I was going to say.
No, Dota is still there, I can say. And of course, BGMI is quite popular in country and a few other games as well. Coming to cloud gaming, of course, it is one thing. I think a few of the players entered early in the market where the internet connectivity wasn't that great. So due to latency, there were a lot of setbacks for which they did not continue the business. But I think this is the right time with the launch of 5G and the launch of the cloud computing, which I mentioned. It has made the latency very low and accessibility on different device very easy. So the same game you can play from a mobile as well as a VR AR device, as well as on your television, on a big screen gaming through your set-top box as well, and web gaming. And the new phones which have come, like Legion Go's new devices that have come in, I think it makes high quality gaming accessible across all the platform. Of course, it's a great opportunity even for developers that their game has been experienced through different devices without any need of any additional changes, I can say, in the development part of things. I think cloud gaming is growing slowly, and it will, that is going to be a major future of gaming is what I see. And coming to AI, there are games like Playable Worlds, where the skin changes according to the geographical location, I can say. And there are a couple of quiz games which are developed by a few Indian developers itself. Depending on the kind of IQ you have or the answers that you're able to give for the previous question, it will throw the next question accordingly. And all this processing is done by an AI. So AI is helping a lot, even in the game environment development, I can say. Now it's no more, an artist itself can use an AI to, have a game environment or game art developed, and then they can make the changes depending on the customized way they want. And not just in development, but also in experiencing the gameplay, I think it is going to bring about a huge change in the way people perceive game experiences hereafter. So this is to sum up about, esports, AR, VR, as well as cloud.
No, thank you. And we're almost at time, so I'll wrap with that. But it's really been fascinating hearing you guys. I think each of you represent such a unique part of the industry that is really great to hear different perspectives. But what's great to see is that, I think no matter like whether you're RMG, casual, or even someone who's from the ecosystem, there's a lot of optimism behind everything that you've just said. And the themes are the same, right? I think the themes of all your answers were very consistent with, what each of you was saying. So thank you for being great panelists. I hope the audience, you had some insight from their answers. With that, we'll wrap. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.